Alright, guys. I hope you're doing well. So, if you are listening to this, it's because you have decided to go off on your own. So, just to let you know, I'm using this video to teach you guys what you have to do and how to do it, as well as the information you will need for today. Okay, so this will be an introduction to evidence. So, how to use it, and then obviously like what it is, and then you guys will also have some opportunities to practice with it. Okay, so the very first thing, I'm gonna try and go ahead and walk you guys through the directions and everything you have to do. So the very first thing is obviously we're gonna go into Canvas. So I will go ahead and log in there from my own account. Okay, so first we're going through Clever, then Canvas. If you're watching this video, you're already on Canvas. Alright, so again, this is English 10. Okay, so this is my dashboard. It looks different for me because I'm the teacher, but it may also look different to you because I am still organizing this, and by the time you guys get to see this video, it may be different. But what you will do is obviously you will look for the classwork for today. Alright, so I'm gonna have you guys do something right before we do the work. So this is what you guys should have already seen. So please, and this should look different for you all. So please click on this link, and it's going to take you to this. So this is going to be like a vocabulary card, and obviously, well, I can make changes to it because I'm the owner of this, but you probably will only be able to see it. However, you will need to write on it. So I'm gonna show you a trick to do that if you don't know it. Okay, so the very first thing you will do is you will click on File. Okay, and I will go through this video a little bit fast, so because you have the ability to stop at any time, so just stop it whenever you need to. So File, I will click on Make a Copy. All right, and in here I can put another title on it, or I can keep it just as copy of. I'll keep it as copy of. Okay, and here at the bottom, uh, you can decide where to put your um, vocabulary sheet. So you can click on here. What I will do is I will go and put this arrow all the way back until it takes it to my drive. Okay, it can take me back more, but make sure you click on my drive. Okay, I don't know how it will look for you all, but make sure you are on my drive. And in here you can make different folders. You can just leave it as it is, whatever. Let's say I just want to leave it right there in my drive and I don't want to make a folder. I just click select. Okay, and now I click OK. When I click OK, I will get a copy of this document, and now I will be able to, you should be able to write on it however you want. Okay, so now that we have this document where you can write, let me go ahead and go back to that presentation that I was showing you. Okay, so we're going to do an introduction to evidence, and for that we need to understand two key vocabulary words. These words are evidence and persuade. Okay, so evidence, if you go to the document you just made a copy of, has this textbook definition. It is the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. Okay, so you already have this definition. Look at the rest of it. In here you see that it also asks for the definition in your own words, so you can just make something that's a little bit quicker and easier for you to remember. Okay, then you have to use 3 examples of the word. So evidence, I think everyone understands what evidence is. So whenever I hear evidence, I think of like a crime scene. So I can put DNA, or I can put fingerprints. So whatever examples remind you of evidence. Okay? And then you will write a sentence using that word. So in this case, evidence. Under it, you also have persuade. Again, you have the textbook definition in here. Create your own definition. Write 3 examples. In here, you can just put examples of what you would do to persuade another person. Okay? And then a sentence using the word persuade. Okay? So this you'll work on individually after I explain a few things. Okay? So let me go ahead and go through this. I skipped a step. So what I will do is I will kind of explain what is the importance of evidence and how do we collect it. And then you will have that time to work on that vocabulary on your own, because I want you to think of these words, and I also want to see that you understand them. So make sure you do it after I explain this. All right. So let's talk about just evidence in general. So why is evidence important? I always think of this kind of like in a crime scene investigation. So if you look at the first bullet right there, it says, when a crime is committed, the detectives need to collect evidence in order to figure out what happened. So obviously, let's say there was a murder. If there is a murder, you go into that crime scene and they will have everything labeled. If there is maybe some hair on the ground, they will collect it. If there's blood anywhere, they will collect that blood. If there's anything that could have fingerprints, they will collect that. So they make sure to collect everything that can help them figure out what happened. Okay? And then another important part is that bullet point right here, which is that they need to have evidence. Otherwise, there's no way to prove who did it. If there is no evidence, there's absolutely no way that you can say somebody committed a crime. Especially if you consider innocent until proven guilty, there needs to be real evidence for someone to be convicted of a crime. So that is why evidence is so important in a crime scene. Okay? In addition to that, you also have, for example, a legal battle after a crime is committed, and that's where a lawyer walks in. So if we look at this bullet point right here, it says lawyers have to prove a point, and their use of evidence is the way they prove it. Okay? So obviously, if I am trying to put somebody in jail again for that murder that we just talked about, I as a lawyer need to make sure that I collect all the evidence that is going to prove that person did it. So if there is a DNA sample at the crime scene that matches the person I'm trying to put in jail, I need to use that evidence because that's going to make my point be proven. On the other side, if there's a blood sample that does not match the DNA of the person I'm trying to put in jail, I would never use that evidence because that does not help my point. And that is connected to this other bullet point, which is that lawyers have to use the evidence to their best advantage and foresee how the rival can also do the same. So lawyers have to always think, okay, if I use this, what can the other side say against that piece of evidence? And the other way around. You have to think of what the other side can use as evidence that you can say it's not effective or it's wrong. Okay? So this is just an analogy to start thinking of evidence and in the context that I'm about to explain it. Okay, so why is evidence important in English class? So obviously in English you guys need to write, And like I've been saying last week, you will have by the end of the quarter to create some sort of uh, persuasive piece. And in that persuasive piece, you need to make sure that you have evidence. That evidence is going to make your persuasive piece uh, either very strong if you have good evidence or weak if you do not have the right evidence. Okay? So, why is it important? As we see right here, you need to have evidence to support your point. Okay? And if I go back to the analogy with the crime scene investigating, you are just like the lawyer. Okay? Just like a lawyer, you need to have evidence. Otherwise, you will not be taken seriously. When you're trying to make a point, uh, and you're going to court, metaphorically speaking, if you do not have your evidence to support your point, nobody's going to care. Okay? So if you go to court without evidence, the judge is not even going to, the jury, I should say, the jury is not even going to think that you have any sort of right reason. Okay? And just like the lawyer, if you try to write an argument and you have no evidence, you cannot be taken seriously. Okay, so I rewrote that twice. My bad. And again, just like in the other analogy, you also need to make sure that you use evidence to your best advantage and that you predict how your rival may use it. Okay? So that is incredibly important. Because when you're creating your argument, you need to make sure that the evidence you have is used to the best of your ability. Because you may have a very good piece of evidence, but if you do not use it correctly, you're not supporting your argument as best as you could, and that is not going to help the grade you receive at the end. In addition, you have to look for your own gaps. What does the other side have that they can use against you? And what part of your argument may be subject to be questioned by the other side? Okay? So that is a very brief explanation of why we need to have evidence in English class. Okay? Now, this is what we're going to probably cover more so in this unit. What makes good evidence? So how can we make sure that we have the right evidence? So these are just a few points that I thought were very important to highlight. There's a lot more that goes into it, but for now I think these are the three that matter the most. So first, your evidence needs to be relevant to the topic you're talking about. That is very important. If your evidence is not relevant to what you're talking about, it does nothing to help your argument. Okay? So like for example in that crime scene, again that murder. If I'm trying to prove the murder happened, I would bring in those DNA samples. I wouldn't bring in, for example, uh, a CD of the last music the person that committed the crime or that I think committed the crime listened to. What that person listened to probably has no relevance to the trial, so it's just not good evidence. So when you're making your point, your evidence has to be directly about your point. Okay? Then your evidence has to be specific and directly supports your point. Okay? So your evidence needs to be very, very, very specific. Okay? So again, we go back into the crime scene. Why is using those that matching DNA from the blood sample such a specific part of that argument? Because we know for a fact that unless somebody's being poisoned, if you're murdered, there's probably blood. Okay? So the blood is very specific to the point. So when you're making your argument, you need to make sure to pick up the evidence that's very specific to the point you're trying to make. And if it is very general, it does not help your argument as much.